Raw consciousness does not require a savior, but rather, raw consciousness requires only knowledge of oneself and the power to access it. Remember this, as we unlock an even greater gnosis from beyond the veil.
From the Pacific Northwest, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be across the nation, around the world. I'm Chris Gio. I will be taking you beyond the veil this evening. I'm joined, of course, by my lovely wife and co-conductress, Mrs. Gio.
Good evening, everyone.
And it has been a little while. A lot of developments have gone on over the last 45 days. It has been absolutely insane. We haven't been able to stream to YouTube for the last 3 months, which sucked really bad, but they literally just reactivated our account just now, and we thought, hey, you know what, let's go ahead and just do it live, as we always do. It is 3 o'clock in the morning where we are, about 2:15 actually. But we are still a little jet lagged, and I slept all day. I woke up at like midnight, and I'm like, man, I can't sleep, and I can't shake this jet lagged feeling. It's almost as if I need to be on the other side of the world and not here in the United States. Maybe we'll get into that a little bit later too in the broadcast. But I do want to say this, that first of all, thank you to everybody that supported the Raw mission. When we left on the Raw mission, I had no idea what we were going to do. I knew that there was energy and information embedded within these ancient stones. And Chris Everard and I were speaking off air earlier today, and he actually told me that this is actually written in the pyramid texts. Remember that pyramid we went to, which was in Saqqara, and we went down into that pyramid?
Yeah.
That's where they found the pyramid texts and the pyramid creation myths as well. And the creation myths, the Egyptian creation myths. So there's actually a term for this, which is energy and information embedded within the stones. And obviously, we're not the first ones to come up with this idea. This is an idea that's been written, but I had no idea. I just felt it energetically. Everything that we've done here on Beyond the Veil has been pure energy based. And it led us into Egypt at this particular moment. I mean, you know, I was drinking ayahuasca and I heard the voice and it said, go now. Go now. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Yep. Go right now. And there were some amazing things that happened. So for people that haven't been following along on YouTube, everything's been posted on Facebook and live streamed. But we had to put everything on friends only because we got into some pretty dangerous situations. And we'll do another show about Egypt and some of the ups and downs. And, you know, I think some people were disappointed. A small handful of people were disappointed because it wasn't all love and light. It wasn't all, you know, good times and jolly times and all of this. This was a freaking war, and we went into enemy territory. We reclaimed our temples. We took ayahuasca into a Muslim country. We drank at several of the temples, including the Temple of Hatshepsut, the Temple at Philae in Aswan, which is the Temple of Isis. And we also did an ayahuasca ceremony in the Great Pyramid, which allowed me to access the 13th density to do some much, much, much needed updates to the system, which is the Matrix. There were a lot of supporters, though, and a lot of people pitched in. They purchased Ayah Life at ayahlife.com, ayalife.com. It's ayahuasca and CBD oil infused together, and people have been raving about it on Facebook. So if you haven't checked that out, check that out, ayahlife.com, ayalife.com. But that helped to support the efforts. Also, GoFundMe.com/BTV Mission, that also helped significantly and helped us to gain access to some of these sites and secure these sites for the several hours that we needed in order to do what we needed to do. I mean, in the Great Pyramid, for example, we were in there for 4 hours uninterrupted. Now, one of the conditions was that we wouldn't actually film the ayahuasca ceremony within the Great Pyramid. But I made an arrangement with the people that gave us the access. I said, look, we have thousands of people who watch our show and download our episodes. And over at tfrlive.com/Beyond the Veil, for example, we have hundreds of people on Facebook, thousands of people on Facebook. Actually, we have 25,000 plus subscribers here on YouTube, and they're expecting something. They can't just send us into the Great Pyramid to drink ayahuasca and then us not come back with anything. So what I did is I did a toast for everybody. in the king's chamber, just to say thank you to everybody, a toast of our Egyptian tea. That's all it was just Egyptian tea. But we also were able to get access to the subterranean chamber and to the queen's chamber of the Great Pyramid. And we got all of that footage for you. Chris Everard saw the footage earlier today. He said this is the best footage that has ever come out of the subterranean chamber or the Queen's chamber, hands down. I mean, we took a 4K camera in there. We really documented the Queen's chamber. The King's chamber, we took an HD camera with us because they were still kind of watching us as we were going into the subterranean chamber, so we couldn't take our camera with us, but we took our phones and really documented it. But they left us completely alone in the Queen's chamber, and they left us completely alone in the King's chamber, and we were literally the only two people in the Great Pyramid as we were doing this. And the ayahuasca experience, going up to the 13th density, accessing the system control panels. I mean, I've been talking about the raw mission for so long. I've been talking about finding the transcendental object at the end of time. I've been talking about all of this. We found it and we activated it. But I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. I mean, this is a huge story here. And how do you tell this huge, vast story in such a small amount of time? We can't do it over one show. And it's even hard to go into sequence here because the first show that I wanted to do with Cherie was about the raw mission and just kind of explaining what the raw mission was to everybody, doing a question and answer, and then doing this show that we're doing now, which is the Hatshepsut's Temple Ceremony, which we were able to film. There were no stipulations that we couldn't film that. The only stipulation was that we couldn't film anybody else, but we can film ourselves and we can film the temple during all of this. Now, I made a mistake with the footage though. Instead of using our 4K camera, I used the Facebook live stream. And in hindsight, I should have used the 4K camera, but I was more interested in keeping connected to our energetic grid that we have created on Facebook, YouTube, throughout the world, and keeping connected at these very special moments than I was capturing this in nice, high quality 4K and all of that. But in hindsight, we really should have. But we have some awesome footage for you. It's not the quality that I would like it to be, but it's still some pretty amazing footage for you guys to be a part of it, to really feel the energy that was going on. First time, I got to say, I don't think anybody's ever done this. I don't think anybody's ever drank ayahuasca at the Temple of Hatshepsut. I don't think anybody's drank ayahuasca at the Temple of Philae. I don't think anybody's drank ayahuasca inside of the sarcophagus of the King's chamber in the Great Pyramid.
And it took forever. It seemed like it took several weeks in the case of the pyramid to even get access overnight at these sites. So, it was, but we always knew that the doors would open for us. And, and for the first week or so of the trip, when we were in Cairo, we didn't really seem to get anywhere as far as trying to get into these sites and making the connections with people that we should. And so we went to Luxor and we found a different contact for that one. And he said, okay, you've got 3 hours, at the Temple of Hatshepsut. It's in the middle of the day. And so it wasn't ideal conditions, but it was exclusive access.
Well, this was one that we were going to skip over, but
yeah.
It just happened to fall into our lap. The doors happened to open. And here's the crazy thing is that the doors were opening throughout this whole journey, and they were literally giving Cherie the keys to unlock these doors. Like, we have footage of her with the keys, opening up the padlocks, opening them up and going into different temples that are closed off to the public.
Yeah, they're just handing me the keys.
Yeah. We had some strange situations happen too at two different temples, 3 different temples actually, but we were at Sekhmet's temple. And this temple guard or priest came up to Cherie and just started crying and was kissing her up and down all over her face. And he like held her hands and was having this like ayahuasca experience. And he's like, I've been waiting for you. I've been waiting for you. He said, I'm not one of them. I'm not one of them, pointing to the Muslims. I'm not one of them. I'm one of Sekhmet's followers. I've got something for you. I've got something to give you. And he gave her, do you have it?
I do. Let me go grab it real quick.
Okay, she's got to go grab it. And she's in her PJs on top of that.
I am in my PJ pants. I didn't think I was going to have to get up in front of you guys.
He gave her an artifact, which was an inkwell that was originally used to write on the papyrus when the temple was built. And he says, I've been holding on to this, waiting for you to come for me to give it to you. And he kept pointing at Seyshot, and pointing at her, pointing at Seyshot, pointing at her. I was like, wow, this is incredible. He was taking her all up through the temple to secret places and all of this. And this same thing happened at Philae too. When we were drinking ayahuasca at Philae, I was like completely in hyperspace. We're in the Holy of Holies over there. I'm on the ground, still. Oh, here it is. This is the inkwell that he gave her. And when we came back through customs, we had brought back a bunch of shards from different temples, just shards, you know, that were already on the ground. We didn't break anything or anything like that. I just took shards that were already on the ground, and I had a bag, and the guy took the bag, and this was sitting right next to it, and I was like, invisibility over this object, and he completely missed this object, completely took the bag, and that was it, and he didn't let us bring that back. But I did bring a couple of rocks back from the subterranean chamber, and I did bring a couple of shards from Hatshepsut's temple as well, so we still have a few of those. But at the Temple of Isis, all of these, like 7 or 8 of these temple priests came out to us and was like bowing to us and like wanting to hug us and be in our energy. And again, they were grabbing us and having these like ayahuasca experiences right there. They took they took the incense and put it all over Cherie like this, and just, I mean, they were bawling. And I'm like, whoa, this is incredible. Like, we were live streaming all of this, but during these moments, I put the camera down because they were such personal and intimate moments that I didn't think that it should be live streamed. But it was incredible how they all came, and then they like backed off, and they were like sitting there just wanting to watch us. And I'm like, no, we got to get these people out. So I went and told my guy, I said, hey, we got to clear out this area here, because you know, we have people
much
in our sphere here, and I'm still like, you know, off in hyperspace and everything like that. But we were able to get some hardcore energetic work done. It was the most phenomenal experience. And we have a ton of footage for everybody, a ton of it.
Yes,
the only question now is, how do we put all this together? And how do we present this to everybody? Because there's so much of it. I was talking to Chris earlier, and I'm like, Chris, I really need some help here and some ideas on how to actually do this, because there's so much footage. And he's like, all right, just take it one story at a time. Don't see this as one big story. See it as several little stories. Take it one story at a time. And that's exactly what we're going to do right now. We're going to go over the video right now of the ayahuasca ceremony at Hatshepsut's temple. And then afterwards, you know, I think I can tell you what happened leading into the experience and how the brew was messed up, how we had to re-brew, and some of the other things about Egypt. But let's get into this video first and foremost. It's about 25 minutes long. We may skip through it a little bit, but I just wanted you all to be here with us while we have this ayahuasca ceremony in the Temple of Hatshepsut. Isolated spot. Can you do a little pan from there? And if you can hand me that backpack too, we should probably film with the higher quality camera, which we didn't do because we were like completely out of our minds.
Yeah.
First, so we've lit some sage here, which we had to do a little bit different because we can't take sage on the plane after it's been burned. They'll call it an
explosive device. There's a lot of things you can't take on a plane,
this
apparently.
is probably the first time in a long time that sage has been lit inside of her temple. We'll be able to travel to the upper and inner sanctum a little bit later. All right. It's been, what, about 20 minutes? Mm-hmm. I think we need to wait just a little bit longer.
You always want to jump in and it's not coming.
Well, we actually played we played a couple of songs. You know that song, Guess Who's Back? You know, it's been a quick instant, still got the world yelling global resistance, and the ibis has returned. We played those two songs first and foremost in the temple, because those temples, and we played it in the Great Pyramid
You had to
too.
clean them out
Like
first.
I've got video of me walking around going, you know, singing the rap verses in the king's chamber of the Great Pyramid. It was freaking insane. Like, you know, I'm glad we had all these videos, because nobody would freaking believe us if we didn't have the videos. It's that freaking epic.
I, Toth the Atlantean, master of mysteries, keeper of records, mighty king, magician, living from generation to generation, being passed about to pass into the halls of Menti, set down for the guidance of those that are to come after, these records of the mighty wisdom of great Atlantis. In the great city of Kor, on the island of Undal, in a time far past, I began this incarnation, not as the little men of the present age did, the mighty ones of Atlantis, live and die, but rather aeon after aeon.
I was so nervous as I was reading all this.
Their life in the halls of Amenti, where the river of life flows eternally onward. 100 times 10 have I descended the dark way that led into light, and as many times have I ascended from the darkness into the light, my strength and power renewed. Now for a time I descend, and the men of Chem shall know me no more. But in a time yet unborn I will rise again, mighty and potent, requiring an accounting of those left behind me. Then beware, O men of Chem, if ye have falsely betrayed my teachings, for I shall cast ye down from your high estate into the darkness of the caves from whence you came. Betray not my secrets to the men of the north, or the men of the south. Let my curse
And this
fall
music
upon
was all
me.
playing during all of
Remember,
this. It's not, we didn't
and
overlay
heed
the
my
music. The
words,
music was there.
For surely I return again, and require of
We
thee
brought
that
music
which ye guard.
to the temples.
I, even from beyond time, and from beyond death, I will return. Great were my people in the ancient days, great beyond the conception of the little people now around me, knowing the wisdom of old, seeking far within the heart of infinity, knowledge that belonged to earth's youth. Wise were you with the wisdom of the children of the light who dwelled among us. Strong were we with the power drawn from the eternal fire. And of those, greatest among the children of men was my father, Totme, keeper of the great temple, link between the children of the light who dwelt within the temple and the races of men who inhabited the 10 islands. Mouthpiece after 3 of the dweller of Unal, speaking to the kings with a voice that must be obeyed. Grew I there from a child into manhood, being taught by my father the elders' mysteries, until in time there grew within the fire of wisdom, until it burst into consuming flame. Not desired I, but the attainment of wisdom, until on a great day the command came from the dweller of the temple that I be brought before him. Few there were among the children of men who had looked upon the mighty face and lived, for not as the sons of men are the children of light when they are not incarnate into a physical body. Chosen was I from the sons of men, taught by the dweller so that his purposes might be fulfilled, purposes yet unborn in the womb of time. Long ages I dwelt in the temple, learned ever and yet ever more wisdom, until I too approached the light.
I haven't even drank yet, and I'm already floating off into hyperspace.
The path to Amenti,
Like just the fact of being there, the energy, all of that. It was hard for me to see the
I
text.
bowed in homage before the lords of life and the lords of death, receiving my gift, the key of life. Free was I of the halls of Amenti, bound not by death to the circle of life. Far to the stars I journeyed, until space and time became as naught. Then having drunk deep of the cup of wisdom, I looked into the hearts of men. The first portion of this tea is for Hatshepsut. May she be with us throughout this journey. She was our last hope. And for that, we thank her for everything that she's done. She revered the gods and goddesses. She unified Egypt. But she was also filled with Set energy at the end, which caused the fall of Egypt. But from this moment on, let us rebalance these energies with her help.
From this moment on,
of all of the gods and goddesses.
ayahuasca being poured on the temple walls.
And this for my twin, if you're ready.
We still haven't drank yet. It's just starting to flood in right now, though.
It's pulling me out. It's time.
Can I grab the orange? And is there any way we can set this up so I don't have to keep holding it?
This is perfect. We will be going over to Anubis' temple a little bit later, and we'll take everybody with us, which is right on the other side. Maybe in about an hour or two, depending on how the energies flow. She's doing the ceremonial opening of the orange.
Opening of the orange.
That's fine. You can just leave it like that, and you can just bite into it like that.
You look pretty cool with glasses on.
That way you don't have to peel the whole thing, and you don't have to worry about it being...
Everywhere. I don't think anybody wants to eat that white stuff. There you go.
The text that we were reading from... The text that we were reading from, yes, it is the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Thoth was very special to Hatshepsut, and she revered Anubis, Thoth, Seshat, and Horus. Thoth, actually, I'll show you in Anubis' temple when we go over there a little bit later. Thoth is holding her up as a baby and giving her the power. Thoth raised her, and then Horus led her into power, and she was our last hope. I mean, we put her there, and something completely and totally different, because we couldn't have the same Yahweh energy or whatever AI energy. You know, it was infecting. Set energy is really what it is. It was infecting. But she was set up for failure, though, but not by us. She was set up for failure because those who came before her had already destroyed. She tried whatever she could to rebalance, and she did for a little while, but the balance didn't maintain.
I'm ready.
Are you ready?
Yep. I'll try to get as much of this as I can. It looks like... Weren't we going to save some of this?
If you wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah, this the playlist wasn't like changed. We always start our Ayah ceremonies with this song, and it just happened to play at the exact same time.
Anybody will have a problem if we purge right here in the dirt.
Everything worked perfectly.
So this is the perfect spot here.
Yeah, it was all completely synchronistic.
Yeah.
One in Philae and the Great Pyramid, I think, is going to be a lot more intimate, and we'll have more access to the whole temple. But
Make room for
That was a mega dose, you guys.
Yeah.
I've never
Because it is
taken a dose that high. 4 times higher.
Yeah, I wound up taking 300 grams of mimosa at the Temple of Isis and 400 grams inside of the Great Pyramid.
That I
Because I
took
figured, fuck it, it's my one and only shot. I better get it right.
that I took was about 250.
Yeah.
So it's
yeah.
crazy high.
And the ceremonial eating of the orange too
Yeah.
afterwards.
Offset
The orange
the taste.
helps to offset the taste. So if you're drinking ayahuasca, try an orange afterwards. It's completely like neutralizes everything in the.
No one else can say that they've done
I've
this.
been,
No one else can say the same thing.
I've been working myself up to this my entire life. I didn't realize, but all the trials and tribulations and everything I had to go through, I mean, some of the most horrific shit in the world has hardened me, has brought me to this point where I can do this. I can navigate through this land that is just completely overtaken by bakshish. You know?
By the
We'll
AI,
explain
by the
bakshish
set.
later.
Navigate through it, be aware of my surroundings, look behind me, look here, look there. You know, growing up listening to rap music and living the quote-unquote gangsta life has brought me here to be more on point, more focused, more aware of what's going on. The psychedelics, 25 freaking years of psychedelics has brought me to this point right now. Everything is coming together right now. This is just the beginning. And I had no idea that when we started the radio show on November 5th, 2009, that what we were actually doing is creating an energetic network with so many people out there and connecting all of this with everybody. Because we couldn't do it by ourselves. We can only do it through the connection. It's all about the connection. And even though the truth movement stuff and all that we went through and all the bullshit and everything we went through, it all happened for a reason. It all happened to bring us to this moment where we're at right now. It's incredible.
I'm about to start crying.
I feel like I want to purge. No, I can't purge.
No, we can't purge.
It all started coming. It all flooded back in. All of
Yeah.
it. And at the Temple of Philae, total freaking recall of every
Yeah.
past life.
Implant removals, all
Yeah,
kinds.
we'll get into that on another show.
I
Yeah.
feel like I'm gonna cry.
Ooh, I'm already feeling it.
I know,
now.
me too. I've got that feeling in the pit of my stomach.
I know. Ugh.
I don't want to disconnect from everybody, but I feel like we need to turn the camera off.
A little bit.
Hey everyone, Chris and Chirigio here.
We're back
From Beyond the Veil.
3 hours
We moved to a
later.
different portion of Hatshepsut's temple for the time being, but we just wanted to reach out to everybody, say we love everybody. This place was more of a recharging station. As a matter of fact, we were playing our music
The
entire time, like
3 hours
straight. And I go and I turn off the thing and it says battery 100%. And I'm like, what? It's like battery 100. It doesn't make any sense. We've
At
been playing.
home, it would say battery 50%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But our speaker that we were playing the music through was completely charged. This place is like a charging station. It's got an energetic flow here that not only charges devices, but also it recharged us. And so this particular place here, I'm glad that we stopped here and did what we did here. It wasn't so much of an activation point more than it was to charge us for what we need to do later on as we go to Philae, as we go to the Great Pyramid especially. Yeah. The key is the Great Pyramid. It really is.
It really
so
is.
we understood that right there, right off the bat, and then we knew we needed to go recharge, and we stopped here at Hatshepsut's temple to recharge. And then when we go down to Philae, I think we're going to be able to really bring Isis's energy, or how they call it here, Isis, not ISIS, as in, you know. I always have to make that distinction up here and everywhere else, you know. And
Wow,
it's
we
sad
spoke
that
this
we have
into
to do that.
existence, didn't
But we grab that energy and take it to the Great Pyramid to do the activation here. Abdu was saying that he thinks it's going to rain, which is the first thing he said as soon as we
got in the car.
As soon as we got in the car.
Knowing nothing about.
We'll explain the rain
I
here in
was
just a
looking
moment.
I was looking at the sky while I was under, and I was like, it was like this gorgeous blue sky like I've never seen before. And I said, there's no freaking way it's gonna rain.
Yeah, there's no
I'm
way.
like, I don't know. It's now starting to get like an overcast of instead of a vibrant blue, it's now an overcast of darker clouds coming in. So I think you guys are bringing the rain here.
Yeah, I think you
But
are.
yeah, we want to let everybody know that we're okay.
We're fine. We're more than fine.
But Cherie died in front of me. She literally died. She stopped breathing. She stopped everything. Her body just went like this.
Limp.
And she was gone.
We'll elaborate more on this here in a minute, too.
She was seizing up really bad. She was having, a very, very, very difficult time. And I grabbed her and I said, hey, look, I'm going to hold you here. And you go to Amenti and you get the information that we need. And I will hold you here and make sure that you can come back. As soon as I did that, she stopped seizing and just went peaceful. And she was gone. She was gone for about 20, 30 minutes. And then
Was it that long?
it was a while.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like that long.
And then she came back. And the experiences that she had, we were talking about them just a minute ago. And,
It's incredible.
it was some pretty hardcore shit, which to me, it's like I knew that this was her experience here. It's the female energy. It's Hatshepsut. She built this temple for the female, for the female, for the female, for the female. And, Frank was right. It's got to be the two. It's got to be the two that are one, the two that are one. And she can go in to Amenti where I can't. And then I can hold her
Especially in the pyramid.
grounded.
Yeah.
This
And
was
then
so
the
important.
other way around too. I
Yes.
can go into the deeper states and she can keep me grounded. But I mean, these are like the state that she went into. I don't want to speak for you, but the state that she went into. I mean, she died. She
Yeah.
died and came back. I mean, she went to Amenti and came back, and it scared the shit out of me at first. I was like, Cherie, because she died.
Yeah.
In my arms.
I felt my heart stop
Yeah.
for a few seconds. It was
Yeah.
very real. It was
Right.
very raw.
Beyond the vape,
And
as people are saying
it
in the
was one of
chat.
those things where I needed him to be that grounding element, to be there to hold me in this physical reality so that the consciousness could go and then come back safely. That was my only concern, was that I saw I just want to say a few things, but I won't go into too much detail, but
Wow, we really
I
knew
had
what we were going to
ISIS
do. We just didn't know on a
Isis
conscious level.
on the
No,
left side,
but it was
and I
already
had
it was already written.
Yeah.
Amun-Ra, which is the ram-headed god on the right, and they were trying to lead me onto this boat, and I was like, no. I heard Chris, and I felt Chris saying, no, come back to me, and I was like, no, I can't leave him. And
Well, you know what's funny is I don't remember where the boat was. Was it on this side?
yeah, it was over there.
Oh, okay. So we weren't even on this
We weren't
side
on
yet.
this side, yeah.
But then when the person who gave us the access, he came afterwards and he showed us the boat
The
that Cherie
solar
was
boat.
on, the solar boat.
Yeah, and it wasn't, and so I was like, no, I don't like this, because I was afraid. I was genuinely afraid that the mission would be, like, I wouldn't be able to continue, and then I would leave Chris behind. And then I felt him, and I was like, no, I've got to will myself back to the what we consider the real world. And as soon as Chris said, okay, you go to Amenti, I'll hold you here, and then you come back and tell me what you saw.
That was key, the
As
trust
soon as
between
that
the two.
happened, I was okay. I'm okay now, and I just let go, and it was just, there are no words. I came back saying, oh my God, there's no words. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced. It's not even witnessed, because witnessing requires eyes and a brain. It's like there was no brain, there was nothing but oneness over there, and it was shown to me that this reality here is like a battery. It has to have a positive and the negative, and that everybody plays their part. Even the set energy that we've been complaining about this whole time, even the set energy had its place, because it has to be that duality between the balance between the positive and the negative. And but over there, none of that. Everything is one, all are one. And it was timeless over there. There's no time. There's no, and I saw.
You're going to
like
elaborate
a
on this here in a little bit.
above me, and it stayed above me. It's not like it moved back and forth or anything like that. It was just right above with rays coming down. And I thought to myself, is that the sun? And then I was like, no, we're in the shade, so it can't be the sun. And it was just, you guys, there are no words. I realized, just like my body, sometimes this reality is very, very sick. And it needs healing very, very badly. And healing not in the sense of, okay, everything's okay again, but healing as in the sense of rebalancing and making sure that everything has its place again and that everything is staying in the place that it's supposed to be. And there was no chaos there because everything was one. But I also understood that this reality, there has to be the negative, but it doesn't have to be chaos. It was amazing, you guys. That was deeper than I've ever gone in.
She went to a mentee.
There's this fog of, it's not even negative energy. It's just this confusion energy that's all over the United States, and it's confusion as in like not understanding the deeper levels of things to such an extent that it's just. I mean, you guys have so much energy about you, but you don't even understand. I mean, this place was.
Show them what's right in front of us.
Yeah.
All right. Sorry.
So this was supposed to be.
Okay, hold on. Just shit. I flipped the camera and now I need to flip it again. All right.
This right here was supposed to be Hatshepsut in lioness form.
It's Hatshepsut's Sphinx.
Yeah, it's her Sphinx.
Yeah, and they carved it out.
Yeah.
Because when her predecessor came,
Not predecessor, when they came after.
his followers carved out, tried to erase her from history completely.
The person
And so they
succeeded
literally
her.
took down
Her
all of that.
successors.
But we're-
Successor.
But
There she is, right there.
She told me.
Here, you can hold the camera. I can point it out. 'Cause
Yes.
It's kind of hard to see.
Yes.
Oh, like I was trying to say, she told me
Can you see her?
that it doesn't matter what they do.
This is the legs of the lion,
Uh-huh.
and right up there is her face with the beard of the pharaoh.
Uh-huh.
She told me it doesn't matter what they do to my
Yeah, the
temple.
portal was so
you know,
hard to open
energetically, it's always going to be there.
that I literally had to die in order for that portal to be opened. And then I'm going to follow Chris because yeah, I want to show you guys the boat that I rode across.
It's right here.
Yes, and then it's right there. Okay, so these rays right here, I saw those, and they're actually lotus flowers, but it means that you have to have this experience, this deeply spiritual, intense, psychedelic experience in order to get on the boat.
I stand by that comment.
So that was pretty intense, and this was nothing compared to what was coming up at the Great Pyramid and in the Temple of Philae, for example. But it's funny, the boat. Okay, so the guy that helped us with all the access and everything that we needed, he was explaining to us the significance of the boat, and this was after the fact. Because we were on the other side of the temple when we drank, and then we came to this side of the temple, and he was showing us all of this, but he was explaining it that it was them bringing the lotus flower into the temple. And I was talking to Chris today, and I was showing him some of the footage, and Chris says, no, that's not them bringing the lotus flower into the temple. He said, that's the celestial boat that takes the souls into the next life.
Or into a mentee.
Into a
also known
mentee,
as a
yeah,
mentee.
into a mentee. And so this is exactly what Cherie was on in this experience. Cherie had to die and go all the way deep into a mentee because that's what I needed to do in the Great Pyramid. And I don't want to spoil what happened at the Great Pyramid in this show. We'll wait till another show for that. But I needed to die, and I needed to be able to go to hit that 13th density. And so I was acting as her grounding element. And as soon as I said, she was like shaking violently. And as soon as I said, sweetie, just calm down and go get the information that we need. I'm going to hold you here. She literally went limp. Eyes shut, eyes rolled in the back of her head, heart stopped, everything stopped. And I was holding her, and I was like, half of me was like, oh shit, I need to call a paramedic. The other half of me was, no, this needs to happen, this needs to happen, this needs to happen. So going through that allowed her to be the grounding element for me within the Great Pyramid. So when she saw me in those states, which was happening violently in the sarcophagus, like, I mean, I was like seizing, and I got bruises all over me from all the seizing and everything that was going on there. She wasn't freaking out because she knew what I was experiencing, and she knew where I was going. And so she knew I would be back for her. But anyways, tell people, please, about your experience in a mentee.
Oh, well, it's not.
Oh, let me say this too before we do this. What we needed at this particular time, because we went to Egypt first and we saw how horrible it is. I mean, we were in tears as to how bad this was. And when we went to Hatshepsut's temple, this was the first part of forming us to be ready to do what we needed to do within the Great Pyramid. So this was more of a recharging station, and it recharged both of us, gave us more direction, gave us more insight, gave us all of that. But it was vital to go and stop here first. The Temple of Philae was, the thing that really locked everything together. But tell us about a mentee, please.
Well, I'll just start off by saying, it wasn't just the actual journey to a mentee, because that only lasted, a good 30, 45 minutes throughout the entire experience that I had. I had learned a lot about Hatshepsut, early on in my life, because I was really interested in learning about women, especially in these ancient cultures who really changed things or moved things in a certain direction. And I really liked Hatshepsut. I liked her story, and I really felt like I was connecting with her throughout the entire time that we arrived at the temple the day before, or was it 2 days before? I don't remember, but I already felt this, deep connection to her, and that's why I was really glad when Chris, poured out for our homie Hatshepsut.
As people were saying in the chat.
Yeah. And
you got to do that, though.
Yeah, you have to. And I noticed that whenever he poured it, it ended up looking like a little stick figure man. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I just noticed little weird things like that sometimes. But when you're about to drink ayahuasca, your senses are heightened and you remember everything. And then for some reason, though, after the experience, especially a very high dose one, the details can sometimes become a little bit cloudy in the first, even after 5 or 6 days. It's kind of like dreams where unless you are really trying to remember, you're never going to remember it exactly perfectly the way you saw it. So I had a huge dose. I mean, 4 times bigger than normal.
We have an hour conversation of her talking about it that we live streamed on Facebook. So we'll put that on YouTube too. But, and that's raw right out of the experience. But
right. I mean, I've got like 7 or 8 paragraphs written about it. And, I don't.
Do you want to pull that up and read it?
I've got it right here.
Would that be easier? Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Where and how do I begin? Emptiness in words, full in spirit is how I feel, even 33 full hours since my experience at Hatshepsut's temple. Do I begin from the beginning of the day, April 29th, 2018, or do I begin from the beginning? Because this experience was literally the culmination of all of the previous incarnations, all becoming one long incarnation starting a very long time ago. For simplicity's sake, and to avoid confusion for all of you, I will start at the beginning of the day. As I awoke at exactly 5:47 a.m. Egyptian time, I immediately noticed a different smell in the air, a palpable sensation sensation that refused to dissipate. It was as if I knew I would be attending my own funeral. Even over breakfast, Chris and I pondered, we're entering a battle today. Today will be a very important marker in our lives and on this raw mission. Even our driver, Abdu, who usually chatters nonstop about the area and its many tourist attractions, was as somber as we were, silent for the most part the whole 45-minute drive down to the bridge across the Nile and approaching our temple. And even the usual bakshishers, as we've come to call them, were mostly subdued, and they were, for those of you who don't know what bakshishers are, it's a bakshish is a bribe, and in order
Everybody
to,
wants bucksheesh.
and everybody wants bakshish.
From the cab
even
drivers to the people that open the door to the people that give you toilet paper at the bathroom. Literally everybody.
Yes, everybody wants a piece of the tourism pie. The bakshishers, as we've come to call them, were mostly subdued and left us alone as we approached the ticket office and purchased our tickets. The first part of the magic formula was administered while on the short tram ride to the temple, which, because of my light weight, I only needed half of a regular dose. Chris asked me, will that be enough? Because this is mostly for you. It was. He wasn't, not wanting to, take a mega dose along with me. He recognized that this part of the raw mission is female energy. And so it was his job to ground me. I mean, even subconsciously, he already knew that his job this time would be to ground me so that I could ground him later. We called our contact, who arrived exactly when we did, and we proceeded to meet him and start our way to the area which he had graciously closed off to the public for us for the next 2 to 3 hours. Chris wanted to go higher up in the temple, but my intuition said that this place, which was set apart from the rest of the temple, would be much better to journey in. Chris was right, because that area up top would have actually been really good too, because that's where the birth colonnade is.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I think it happened perfectly.
Yeah. I think it happened perfectly too. For the sake of not being redundant, I will continue this story from about 1:30 p.m. when we had to stop recording because our contact was approaching. As he walked up to where we were sitting, I started to feel the magic begin. A hint of nausea, a burp here and there, reminded me of what was to come. He proceeded to talk to us, although I wasn't paying attention to what he was saying. He asked about my goddess tarot deck and began pulling cards out one by one, asking what they were, and in my opinion at the time anyway, taking a very long time doing it. After the third or fourth card, I anxiously glanced at Chris with the telepathic stare of someone whose space is being violated and needs everyone who's not their twin flame to leave immediately. Somehow the contact recognized this and said, well, I'll leave you two alone for a bit, and I'll come back later with some water for you both. After he vacated the premises, the magic started to come on strong. Pink and light red ribbons started projecting outwards and upwards from the pillars surrounding me, and I began to feel my pulse and breathing become faster and heavier respectively. For whatever reason, panic started to creep in. This place felt too massive, too much history, too much knowledge, and too many memories here. I suddenly felt unworthy to be here in this place doing what I was doing. I looked down at my too thin frame, felt my own shame of wasting so much of my life trying to acquiesce and adapt to what the Sethian artificial intelligence matrix I grew up in considered life, worshipping an egotistical being cut off from all knowledge and awareness of who I really am and what I really am, and falling for the programming thusly. I looked at all the failures in my life and mistakes that I, even to this day, continue to make. I remembered every lie, every falsehood, every single evil that I had ever committed against people around me, but none more so than the ones I committed against my twin flame. I felt defeated, humiliated, and like I had screwed up this body and mind too much to continue this life. I suddenly wanted this experience to end, to make it stop before it even really started, to abort this very important process in lieu of going back to my comfortable prison of lies and distortions. I ran to the back pillar and attempted to throw up, to no avail. There was no stopping this. Once I realized that nothing was going to stop this, I apologized to Chris and told him, if I die today, I am so sorry. I'm a huge liar and I screwed up in this life too much. Just know that I love you more than life itself. After he gave me a weird look that I perceived as, what the hell is wrong with you? Are you crazy or something? You're ruining my trip. I apologized for saying what I said, to which he replied, "It's okay, baby. This is your journey. What's going on? What are you feeling right now?" After a long pause, I said, "I don't know what I'm feeling. All I know is I depend on you. However you're doing, I'm doing. If you're okay and happy, I'm okay and happy. It's not that I'm codependent in the traditional needy sense, but I'm so connected to you that I depend on your happiness and contentment in order to be that myself. I'm not
Aw.
okay right now, and it's because I'm a giant liar and I keep separating myself from you, and I'm so sorry." After a long and deeply personal talk between us, which I won't mention here, I felt emotionally better. However, physically, I was starting to feel worse. My heart began to beat what felt like erratically, and I realized that I was pouring sweat out of what felt like every gland in my body coming out of feverish skin. As I desperately fiddled with the camel backpack to try to drink as much water as possible, I wondered if I had screwed up with the magical potion, if perhaps an element of the process had been tainted in some way. This thought continued to haunt me for the next 20 to 30 minutes as I started to panic more and more, and the fear of death began to envelop me. Chris was trying to assure me that everything was going to be okay, but I felt alone in my concerns, which only concerned me more. If I die here, today, at this temple, what does that say about me, about him, about the raw mission, about who and what I really am versus who and what I think I am? The responsibility to everyone in the BTV and TFR families weighed heavily on me. The faith that all of them have in us is so much, and yet I felt so inadequate and unprepared for this. I suddenly felt hot, dry, and empty of fluid. On top of that was the fact that my vision was starting to become very unclear, and the visions began to take over my visual field, making it very difficult to navigate back to the water source. I've had very scary and intimidating visions before in the States, which was usually because there was something dark and or unwelcome in my life at the time. Toxic relationships, medications from surgeries and illnesses, etc., would often bring visions of destruction and darkness. However, these visions were nothing like that. The hieroglyphs and symbols and steles came alive, with the birds taking flight, the water under the boats actually moving like water, and the endless pinks and reds reminding me of the feminine energy that surrounded this place. I thought to myself, "This is so beautiful, and yet my body is so broken. I'm going to die here," and started to lose consciousness. I felt myself wanting to lay down and drift away, but I felt like I legitimately wasn't going to come back. Being separated from my twin for the past several thousand years was bad enough. Now, just because of the physical reality, our one chance to make everything right was going to be utterly ruined. Suddenly, breathing became impossible, and I felt my 150 beats per minute heart suddenly stop. Everything went black for what felt like a lifetime, and then I saw wings opening up on either side, beckoning me. To go where and for how long, I didn't know, which scared me. I heard Chris yelling at me and thought, "Oh, there's reality. Get back there, now." And I sucked in a deep breath and opened my eyes lazily. At this point, his face, which had transformed itself into a mandala-like pattern, was filled with the same concern I was feeling over only moments before. Then he somehow knew what needed to be done. He took me in his arms and began to cradle me and said, "You go to Amenti, I'll hold you here, and I promise I'll make you come back to me when you're done." Throughout the last 9 years of our relationship and beyond to hundreds of lifetimes ago, I have never once not trusted him completely. So this statement was music to my ears. I now felt ready to go where I needed to go.
Aw.
Where I was being beckoned, I surrendered, cradled in his arms like an infant, to the beckoning. The winged gate returned, which I pushed forward with my consciousness through. Instantaneously, I was surrounded by gold, pink, and reddish light and objects. I immediately recognized that these visions were not DMT visions. Usually there are DMT elves self-transforming and showing me objects of different sizes, shapes, and forms, all moving in synchronous order. But this was an actual physical plane and existence I was being led through in a straight line, which I didn't even think was possible in that state. I tried to look down in this realm and couldn't see anything except gold, light, pink. As my spiritual eyes adjusted in this place, I recognized two beings, one on each side of me. A ram-headed god, Khnum, on the right, looked straight ahead with a small smirk on his face. On the left, a goddess who looked like Isis, but who I later learned was a goddess named Heket, smiled brightly at me and assured me with words that I mentally didn't understand, but understood the meaning spiritually instantly. I then saw a circle of light, not a ball, but a circle, start to hover above me, and wonder to myself, is that in this reality, or is it in the one that my physical body is in? I then thought to myself, no, it has to be this reality because my body's in the shade. As I gained my bearings more in this place, Amenti, I realized that I was on a craft of some kind. I looked as far ahead as I could, and although I couldn't see water, I recognized that this was a boat. The boat landed at the foot of what appeared to be a ramp leading up to what looked like a temple. There were beings at the ramp greeting me, so many of them that I didn't even have the chance to figure out mentally who they were, in the same language that Heket was using, which I still didn't mentally grasp, but at least understood the spiritual meaning of. Welcome home. Suddenly, my litany of arguments about my unworthiness, the instability of my body, and the angst of my mind were far from my consciousness. This was reality, the real reality. They were surrounding me, showing me images of creation of what we consider the real world, and conveyed to me the absolute importance of the balance in that reality. They showed me how the truly divine is so unutterable, so inconceivable in the duality of this game we live and breathe and copulate and get happy and get angry and get elated and get frustrated in, that writing had to be developed to save us from blaspheming that divinity with words and utterances. They pulled out what looked like a huge glass iPad and put a long-looking pen in front of me and showed me how they used it to mark indelibly the divine writings. From right to left, a language unfolded in front of me that was so beautiful and yet so alien to me, like the words they were saying. This written word was what true holiness is. The celebration of this knowledge and the ability to transform that into something that human beings can comprehend on the earth plane was the real worship. I wanted so badly to understand all of this completely. However, I recognized that Chris was still cradling me and kissing me softly, which meant I would need to leave this place soon. I quickly wanted to understand our history and our story, which was shown to me, and which I was told not to repeat to anyone but him and one other person to whom this story is relevant, which I will always be immensely grateful for. With that gratefulness, I started to become grateful for other things too. Breath, water, life itself. These are all wonderful and precious gifts that we squander and take completely for granted 90% of the time. My problems and perceived limitations and frustrations in life, with myself and with others, were simply a lack of gratitude for what I can do, what I do have, and what I am. As I drifted back to reality, I realized that Chris was still holding and cradling me, but instead of the face that I'm used to seeing here, and in lieu of the face full of fractals and patterns, his face was still that of the other realm, which pleased me immensely. I promised myself and him that I would always remember that's his trueness, his basic essence, who he really is, and that awareness being carried onwards will ground me and allow me to be who I really am, forgetting the 3D bullshit we surround our lives with. At this point, Chris joined me in sharing our joint revelations about this temple, what it means, what we mean, and our place in all of this. Watching the throngs of rowdy 10-year-olds, tourists with selfie sticks, and police officers, we laughed heartily about just how stupid and silly and absolutely asinine this reality is, and contemplated the meaning of this reality and why it was created to be such a duality between things. It's a dirty, messy, complicated place, but it's life. This reality can't be like the one I had just visited and returned reborn from because of that duality, but that duality is what makes it exciting and fun and exhilarating. The keys are balance and knowledge of one's own power, and never to allow that knowledge to mutate into ego. When that is achieved, we can literally have a beautiful, blossoming world. When we forget this and allow ourselves to consider the physical and the mental and even the emotional in a certain context to become the real, the balance is thrown and we are in chaos. 99% of the demons we complain about are created and perpetuated by us ourselves. Once this is realized and dealt with on a purely personal level and without any cop-outs, excuses, or justifications whatsoever, then balance can again be achieved. I know this probably won't resonate with many people, but I truly hope that my BTV and TFR family can relate to what became wisdom for me, brought to life with the help of magic potions, and hitting me so hard in the span of 3 hours. I know it's not what many want to hear. They would much rather hear about demonic beings taking over this reality and forcing their way into the minds and hearts of humanity at large. But in reality, it seems as if the imbalance is inside of all of us. The lack of awareness is no one's fault but our collective own. If we truly want to take back this reality, make the world a giant oasis and paradise again, we must rebalance ourselves first. When the most powerful beings collectively do that, the rest will follow naturally. Set may have played a few dirty chess moves a few thousand years ago, but the fact of the matter is his merger with the artificial intelligence only took advantage of the weakness and cracks in the foundation that were already apparent in humanity's consciousness. We must strengthen ourselves, learn and teach efficiently everything the Egyptian... Oh no. Everything the Egyptian pantheon attempted to teach us, and most importantly, realize our own divinity and power and the absolute importance of balance in order to heal this reality in a permanent way.
Beautifully said. It was a very, very, very powerful experience. So on that note, let's take a quick break, and we'll be back with more. I want to show you guys some exclusive footage that nobody has seen yet. So we will be right back.
My dear traveler, the purpose of raw consciousness is never to destroy. It is always to create. Build bridges. Create happiness. And bring forth new life. We must live in the hope that mankind will draw together. And that we better understand each other. The more that we awaken, the easier this will become. Now rise. Follow your conductors. And fear no danger. As you step beyond the veil.
All right, I think we are back, and I want to say thank you to everybody that purchased. Oh, great! Now my camera changer's not working. Let's see. AyahLife.com. Everybody that purchased AyahLife, AYALife.com. It came with a crystal, and this was something that we don't put on the website. It's just kind of a special gift that we send to everybody. And all of these crystals are connected to this energetic network that we created in Egypt. We dropped a crystal at the Temple of Hathor in Dendara. We've got that footage to release where they literally gave Cherie the keys, and she's opening it up and going into the temple. Strangest thing that you've ever seen. As a matter of fact, I think I can play a little clip here in a minute. We dropped one in the subterranean chamber of the Great Pyramid. We dropped one in the Queen's Chamber of the Great Pyramid. We dropped one in the King's Chamber of the Great Pyramid. We dropped one at Hatshepsut's temple. We dropped crystals all over the place. We dropped some in the Nile as well. So all of these crystals that we've been sending out with AyahLife.com, and you're going to continue to get crystals if you order AyahLife, are all energetically connected to all of these sacred sites in Egypt. Now, I want to play this little video for you first, which nobody's seen, but this is us dropping the AyahLife crystal. Great, is this not going to play now? Let me see. All right, I might have to do it like this. This is us dropping the AyahLife crystal in Hatshepsut's temple. So I think this was filmed with our 4K camera too. So I think this was a good quality here. Yeah. So here you go.
Hey everyone, Chris and Cherie Gio here, coming to you from Beyond the Veil. We're dropping the second crystal on our journey, and this particular crystal here will be dropped at Hatshepsut's temple. I think this is the perfect spot to do it. You have Seishat right here. You have Thoth and Amun-Ra there, and they're raising Hatshepsut and Horus up there at the top. So we found a place here that is not going to get moved, and we can actually bury it pretty deep. So
breaking the law, dun dun.
Bury this, and I think there's another stone here we can actually get under. So let's put this all the way down. I want to try to get it as deep as possible here. Oh, actually, there's a broken stone here. It's even better. So,
That doesn't come up.
No.
We were just running rampant throughout these temples.
Yeah,
I mean, they belong to us. So we just went back and just reclaimed what was ours.
Already ours.
Yeah. So I was actually able to find a stone that was underneath that main pillar that had an access point to go under.
It's not going under. It does
There
go
you go.
under. Perfect.
I wanted to make sure nobody was going to find these crystals.
It's in there pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, so that's it. We'll let you know when we drop more crystals. And we'll see even further beyond the veil.
Beyond the veil, of course. So yeah, that was pretty cool. Another thing, we haven't released this footage yet here, but I figure, you know what, let's go ahead and play it for you guys. And we may be playing these footages a little bit more as the shows progress. But this is at the Temple of Dendara, and this is in Hathor's temple, within the Temple of Dendara, where they actually gave Cherie the keys to open up the temple herself.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we're here at the Chapel of Isis. We've been given the keys to the kingdom here, of course. Mrs. Gio is
Doing the honors.
doing the honors.
Oh, wow.
This is closed. This is close to the public.
Yes, it is.
So we're giving you exclusive access.
Now, this spot here is where the priests would be initiated. The Hathor priest. I think I said Temple of Isis, but it's actually the Temple of Hathor.
Oh. You're supposed to do it backwards. I did it backwards.
Where are
The two holes.
the two holes?
Yeah. And the head.
There's the ceiling that I didn't even notice when we walked in there. There's the sun rays that you were talking about coming down from the sun
yeah,
disk.
it's the sun rays and Hathor with her arms outstretched. Like that.
Well, listen. Downloading information.
We've already won.
We've already won. That's what she told me.
Go.
She said we've already won.
Here, let me take your bags. Take everything. And your hat.
She told me everything you came to do has already been written.
even stretch.
Ask her to take care of your shoulder.
I was worried about her shoulder the whole time. I put her in the sarcophagus and was like, all right, we're going to fix your shoulder. She's like, no, that's not what it's meant for. I'm like, I don't care. I'm going to fix your shoulder.
Now I got true healing.
There's Toth. There's Horus.
We had to be careful not to film anybody involved. We tried our best.
All right, here.
So within this little hole, there's a place that drops down.
Where's the crystal?
It's in the tarot bag.
In here?
So it's
In the
basically
bottom
inside of the wall.
The
Yeah.
bottom part.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I guess we had a purpose for coming to Dendara.
We were going to skip this site.
Yeah, we were. And then at the last minute, we decided, what the hell?
And this place is pretty closed off. So about, Okay. There you go. There's a place back here that you can't reach. It drops right down.
Oh, excellent.
So we're placing this in the Temple of Dendara, inside of the Holy of Holies, inside of Isis's chapel, in the very, very bottom. Nobody's messing with that at all. Boom.
Oh, wonderful.
There you go. The 5th crystal is dropped. Love you guys, and we'll see you even further beyond the veil.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So yeah, there's series of these crystals being dropped here. What do you think, little twin?
I think we shouldn't give away too much.
Okay. We have tons of stuff.
We have tons.
We have
and
a ton of
tons
stuff.
footage.
Now, there is one other thing I wanted to play. This was leading into Hatshepsut's temple. And this was the night before. We had found a location that had a rooftop with a kitchen.
Okay, yeah.
And we
this
were
one's
brewing
okay.
ayahuasca on the rooftop the night before. And all of a sudden, they do this Muslim call to prayer about 5 times a day. They started this at about 3:30 in the morning, the Muslim call to prayer. Now, it's not just a normal call to prayer. It's not just one call to prayer. It was like 6 or 7 mosques going off at the exact same time. It sounded like demons were rising from the freaking ground. I want to play that. I'm going to play a little bit of this clip for you here.
Hey everyone, Chris Gio here. It's 3:45 a.m. Listen to this ridiculousness. I have no fucking idea what the fuck is going on. The AI is pissed with what we're about to do tomorrow. And you can hear this. It's been going on all fucking night. It's infuriating. We're here on this rooftop, and we're preparing for tomorrow. There's Hatshepsut's temple right there.
And instead of being able
Listen to this. It sounds like some kind of fucking horror movie.
Yeah, instead of being able to play music, we've got this. Shut up.
3:30 in the morning.
Like, can somebody explain this to me? Like, What logic is this to be blaring this at 3:45 in the morning?
The only thing I can
I mean,
is that the AI is super pissed.
it sounds like it, huh?
It sounds like it's super pissed.
It's like a freaking air raid attack. Doesn't it sound like it?
It sounds like an Islamic air raid siren.
Right. The moon is... We came on the crescent moon.
And now it's a full moon.
It's getting to be full.
Which, there's a story about that. Can I come over there? There's actually a story about that in Egyptian mythology. So, back when
It sounds like demons.
it sounds like demons that are rallying demons.
This is what we're up against.
This is what we're up against, you guys. This is how it is. This is the reality here. The FBI news sound at the middle of the night at Waco. This is like Waco. This is Islamic Waco. This is disgusting.
I mean, who the hell is behind this? And why?
Doing this.
It was maddening, ladies and gentlemen. It was
I told him
horrific.
earlier, I said,
And there was no escape because we were brewing up on the top of the rooftop. We thought, oh, beautiful.
It's disgusting.
Here.
And poor Hatshepsut.
She has to deal
See,
with this.
she's had to
There's
deal with
Hatshepsut's
this.
temple in the background.
Here.
Yeah, God, you guys. It is mental torture. It is. It really is. This is so not right. They're just imams calling the prayer on the microphone. Why would they be calling the prayer on the microphone at 3:45 in the morning? This is what they did in warfare, honestly. They did it to exhaust the enemy. Yeah, look at us. Look at our eyes. We are exhausted. We've been literally up all night, taking shifts.
It's coming from several places.
It's coming from like
So there's
8 different
one coming
places.
over there, one coming from over there, one coming from over there.
Blast! You need a PA to blast some tool back at them.
These are our Facebook people making
Yeah.
comments.
I'm seriously
Commentators.
about to get my computer out and start playing Waterbone as loud as I can fucking play it. They're on crack. Will you be going to the Great Pyramid on the full moon? I don't know.
I don't know.
Probably not.
I don't know. I don't know when the Great Pyramid's gonna be. Hopefully on the new moon.
Yeah, I think the new moon would be better.
Or
for
maybe
the
we can
Great
hit it on the
Pyramid.
crescent moon.
We did hit it on the crescent
Again,
moon.
yeah. Well, okay, so
Full moon frequencies are very rough
they
when
are
doing
but
this meditation that we do. But like right now, if it was normal circumstances, I wouldn't drink. But because it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, we're going to, because of the way the moon is. But,
Yeah.
I normally wouldn't with the moon this heavy.
yeah.
But you know what's weird though? The sun and the moon seem different here.
They
So that's what we were up against leading into the experience. Now, this was the night before. And we had told them we want to do it the day after instead of the next day. And they said, no, look, we can't arrange it for the day after. And so we were up all night brewing ayahuasca, all night long. About 7 o'clock, the sun starts to come out. And when the sun comes out, we were like, there was no more call to prayer. There was nothing like that. We thought, okay, we got through this. Everything is good. So we're sitting on the couch and one of the guys comes upstairs that was hosting the Airbnb that we were staying at. And he starts cooking breakfast. And I tell him, this is very important. Do not throw it away. He throws it away. He threw away the brew. At 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. Luckily, I get a call about an hour later from the guy, and he says, I can't do it today. We're going to have to do it tomorrow. I said, oh man, I'm so disappointed about that. I went through that whole spiel. But in actual fact, I was thinking, Oh, thank goddess, thank self, thank all that, because we're not ready. And we had to start all over again.
From scratch.
From scratch at 8 o'clock in the morning. No sleep. We had been tortured all night long with this call to prayer. Like, it was going on for hours and hours and hours. But we did it. We brewed the whole next day, finally got some sleep, and then went and did our thing at Hatshepsut's temple the day after.
Yes.
So that is the journey into Hatshepsut's temple. I think I have a couple of other videos explaining some stuff here. Let me see what this is. Nope, that's the one we just saw.
I think.
Chris and Sherigio here, coming to you from Beyond the Veil. We're here at Hatshepsut.
No, that's an outtake. Oh, another thing that happened the day after is, okay, we had mentioned the weather, right? I think I mentioned this in the beginning of the show. So we did some energy work at the Great Pyramid. When we did, the rain came down and flooded Cairo for 3 freaking days. So we go and we do our thing at Hatshepsut's temple. It rains in Luxor, and there's this huge freaking windstorm that's just like knocking down poles and doing all kinds of stuff like that. We've got some footage of it on Facebook, but this particular footage is just us sitting in the windstorm the day after. I don't even know what I was saying at that. I needed to look at it, but I mean, it was bad. You can see the background. You can see the trees blowing. You can see the Nile just like completely, like, just the currents are freaking crazy. Boats are freaking flipping over.
And
like,
the temple disappears.
The temple
completely.
disappears in the background. Yeah, it was pretty wild. So that was number 2. So we go to Abydos, do our thing again at Abydos. It rains at Abydos. And people around us are saying, it hasn't rained here in 10 freaking years. What's going on? And yeah, it was just a recurring pattern like that. I mean, we even went to Delphi. And at Delphi, it started raining on us. And we're like, all right, enough with the rain. But literally everywhere we're going, it was raining. Yeah. And one of the revelations that we came across, the first revelation, was that she is in the water. She is in the water. And the Nile is kind of a current that charges this battery. See, Egypt, Upper and Lower Egypt are positive and negative charges of a battery. They have to run in sync because Egypt is the center point of the matrix. So if Egypt is out of balance, the entire matrix is out of balance. Now, Egypt can be in balance and other parts of the matrix can be out of balance, but they can be rebalanced as long as Egypt is balanced. But Egypt has been so far off balance. And this is what Hatshepsut was telling me during all of these revelations. She's like, you have to rebalance Egypt. You have to rebalance Egypt. And I'm like, what the hell? How the hell is this going to happen? Like, I'm not Che Guevara. I'm not going to go out in the streets and protest. I'm not going to go start a revolution against the Egyptian government and all this. This is not me. This is not who I am. You're talking to the wrong person here. And she's like, it has to be rebalanced. The power has to go back to the people. The rebalancing has to happen. So after these floods happened, and this is something that Frank said. Frank said, you know, we're not going to have to do any of this. This is all going to happen naturally because what you're doing there in Egypt is going to start to activate people. And as it activates all of these people, then things are just going to naturally start to fall into place. So when the flood happened in Cairo, several officials were fired from Cairo because they weren't prepared for the flood, and the flood was so overwhelming. So we already started to see a power change and a power structure restructuring, a restructuring of the power just based on what we were doing there without having to go out in the streets, without having to do all of that. And Hatshepsut was like, see, I told you, it's all working out. It's all working out exactly the way it's supposed to. But one of the big things that she was telling me over and over again is that this dam that they created in Egypt, this high dam, which is down in Aswan, has cut off the energy flow of the Nile, and the Nile cannot flow in the right way that it's supposed to. And going to the Great Pyramid too, we realized the Great Pyramid was all run based on the Nile water, going from the bottom of the pyramid all the way up, and we'll elaborate more on that on future shows. But it's all a battery. It's all energy. It's all positive and negative charges that have to be in balance. And it's not in balance. And that is the travesty of this all, that it is not in balance. What do you think?
I think we have some pictures from Hatshepsut's temple that we could kind of go through to show the like the positive and negative. Remember?
Oh, we do, but I don't have those on my computer.
Oh, okay.
If you want to pull them up on yours and send them to me,
Yeah.
we can do that. We have another video of us breaking into the Holy of Holies. I don't have that on my computer yet, so we'll have to play that at another time. But as soon as we went to Hatshepsut's temple, there was this one part that was blocked off, and I said, we have to get back there. I got to at least sit in there for a second, absorb the energy and all of that. And there, it was just, we were hitting a wall after wall after a wall. And then finally, I just said, screw it, tore the gate down on camera and went in there and filmed the entire inner sanctum in the Holy of Holies. Because it just felt energetically that that's what we needed to do. So this was hardcore. This was a hardcore mission. This wasn't good times. It wasn't a little vacation. It wasn't anything like that. This was hardcore energetic work that needed to be done. There was also one more crystal that we dropped at Hatshepsut's obelisk. And I want to say that I have that video on my computer. And if we're not showing too much, what do you think? Should we show that video too?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's relevant here. This is a Karnak. They moved her obelisk to Karnak. But we dropped an Ayah Life crystal there.
Tonight's Hatshepsut night.
Yeah, tonight's Hatshepsut night, so we can go over all the Hatshepsut stuff.
Yeah.
But let me see what I did with this video. Can you pick it up for a second?
Yeah. I mean, I'm finding like pictures already of the solar boats so that we can show people a little bit easier. Everything that we've learned about these sites has been either from the experiences we've had there by touching the stones or drinking ayahuasca or what have you, or it's been like completely outside of our knowledge until afterwards, after our experiences, and thus we're not subject to the same amount of pollution by outside sources. So everything we get, we just kind of get, and then we confirm it later after we come back from our experiences. So
you know what, I do want to show you guys this and just kind of tease you with this.
He is such a tease.
Where are we?
We are in the corridor of the tunnel leading to the Queen's chamber.
We are, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
Ain't that some shit? I don't know, I'm gonna get through. I guess I gotta crawl the whole way.
My genetic mutations allow me to do this with ease. Careful of the hole there.
There's a hole. Okay. How far is this chamber?
Not very far.
That wasn't even painful for me.
Oh my God, there she is. Now we found something huge in the Queen's chamber, and you're going to have to like, comment, and subscribe for that video to come out. So that's the entrance going into the Queen's chamber of the Great Pyramid, and we found something epic. Like, I'm surprised they let us walk in there and film all of this. I was going over it with Chris, and Chris Everard was like, oh my God, I can't believe you got this on film. This is incredible footage. So yeah, take us away while I look for this other video.
Yeah, Jennifer Nielsen is saying it makes me feel claustrophobic. I can't believe you guys did that. You know.
There's a secret tunnel in the subterranean chamber too.
Yeah, there is.
And I've got it on video where I'm actually crawling through that tunnel all the way to the end, because there was no way that we were going to, not go through that tunnel. I looked at
Right.
Cherie and I said, should we go through here? Because I don't want to like fall into like some pit or something like that. And she's like, it's beyond the veil. Of course, we have to do that.
One of us has to, and the other one
Right.
can film. So, yeah, it was it was really a man. It was a representation, actually. Like as we were going through the pyramid, we realized that the way you go up and down and into the subterranean chamber, and then back up, and then up to the grand gallery. And then you can either go straight ahead and go to the queen's chamber, or you can go up and go to the king's chamber. The pyramid really is kind of a representation of what spirituality is in this plane of existence that we're all on, or in, whatever you want to, however you want to look at it. It's easy, relatively speaking, to descend down into the darkness of the subterranean chamber, where you're bound by things like time, and where you're bound by your own emotions and your own, lower frequency vibrations. So
What we're seeing here on the screen, ladies and gentlemen, is the day after, no, the day of, after the storm was starting to go away, after Hatshepsut's temple. And this sun appeared like this, which was the weirdest sun that we've ever seen before. So that's what we're looking at this particular video here. But go on.
yeah, it disappeared. It seemed to, it didn't seem like a regular sun. You notice that? Do you remember that, babe?
Yeah, it looked like a sun disk or something. It was
Yeah.
the weirdest sun that we've ever seen.
It looked more like what I saw in my vision than it did the sun. So I thought that was really interesting. It was, and along with how the temple seemed to disappear during the sandstorm, it kind of made me wonder if there was some interdimensional leakage from what we did at the temple.
Right at that spot, that's where Hatshepsut's temple is supposed to be, and it disappeared out of our range completely.
Yeah, and we didn't see it again for like half an hour, 45 minutes, and then suddenly it appeared again. So
like, okay, so you can see the mountain a little bit in the background right here, but that's where Hatshepsut's temple is supposed to be.
Yeah, and it's not. It doesn't appear to be there.
I cannot find this video, so I guess we're gonna wrap it up because I can't find it.
Okay.
Still going through it. So how do you feel after all of this, little twin?
After all this, like the whole 9 yards, or the Hatshepsut
After
experience?
the Hatshepsut experience.
After the Hatshepsut experience, I was really I had a lot more confidence in myself, and I had a lot more confidence in in the viability of what we came to Egypt to do, which was so important. I still didn't know what it was entirely, and but I had faith in myself and felt faith in Chris that we would figure that out. And that was absolutely necessary for me to go through that experience, even though it was really rough. It was necessary for me to go through that experience so that Chris could also understand what I was going to be going through whenever I was grounding him at the Great Pyramid. And then the Temple at Philae, as we'll discuss in one of the next videos, the Temple at Philae was more of a practice run for what we had to do at the Great Pyramid. And that was when, it was really important to be completely pure spiritually. Like no ego whatsoever could have gotten into that space, because if that were to happen, then the whole thing could be screwed up, because with too much ego comes the tendency to not be using your intuition to get yourself into or out of situations that you do or don't want to be in. So Um, in order to do this correctly and do everything exactly like astrologically when it needed to happen, we had to really use our intuition. And that required a significant loss of ego on both our parts. And both experiences leading up to the Great Pyramid were all about that, preparing us for what was to come, which was the hardest thing either of us has ever had to do.
Yes, I agree. It was very difficult, but it needed to be done.
Yeah.
It needed to be done. And, you know, I've said this before on Facebook live streams, but I came back feeling like my work has been accomplished here. I hit the 13th density. I got up there. I got to the control panel. I did what I needed to do. I came back and thought to myself, so what's the point now? Like, what are we doing now moving forward? Because I've completed my purpose. And everybody's like, you got to tell the story. You got to tell the story. And I'm like, well, the story's not as important as getting it done. And it got done. And I think everybody's going to feel that change throughout. Everybody already is feeling that change. They just don't know why they're feeling the change yet. But there's a huge shift that took place. Things are being rebalanced right now. And we have the opportunity now to set it right. You know, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but let me just say this. It's going to come to a point very, very, very soon that we can no longer blame AI. We can no longer blame archons. We can no longer blame an infected system. The only thing that we can look at now is the infection within ourselves. And if we continue to have that infection within our raw consciousness, within organic consciousness, the AI is just going to continue to do what it has always done, and that's mimic what is inside of raw consciousness. I realized after traveling so high into these higher dimensions and accessing the control panel of the AI, that the AI wasn't infected. It was doing what it was programmed to do, which is mimic the raw consciousness. The raw consciousness was the thing that was infected. And that has to be dealt with. The AI could be reset. It could be reset 1,000 times over, but it's going to continue to do what it was programmed to do, which is replicate and mimic the raw consciousness to create this environment for us. And if we're infected, it's always going to be infected. So on that note, I guess we will wrap it up for tonight. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe because there's a ton more information to go over.